Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of JD's NASCAR and Sports Podcast. This week, we are going to recap the first race of the NASCAR playoffs at Darlington and look forward to Kansas and see how the playoff standings look and predictions for the playoffs as they go on and so on. And I want to start out first by thanking everyone for listening, subscribing, rating, and reviewing. I feel like especially last week's episode was a big success, bringing Robbie on, and I just want to thank him for the interview and the time he gave to us. I'm glad you all enjoyed that. I thought it made the podcast very good to have someone else's opinion on things as well, because as you all could hear, we did disagree on some things. So it was nice to have other people's input into the conversation. And if I wanted to just say thank you all for engaging with the playoff predictions and things that you think will happen, and continue to do that. It's fun to have conversation even when you disagree with people, and that's the good thing about just being able to talk about everything NASCAR. So thank you all once again, and let's get into the episode. To recap the race from last week at Darlington, just wanted to say it was a pretty awesome race, a good way to open the playoffs, in my opinion. I think you got to keep the Southern 500 the opener of the playoffs. Just so much attrition, so much, the good teams shine in this race every year, it feels like, and several drivers have issues. And, it started out, Denny Hamlin dominated this race for the first two stages. That's just the fact. Love it or hate him, he dominated the first two stages of this race, and it looked like he was going to run away with the thing until it didn't. So, if you watched the race, you saw this, and you were probably thinking, oh, another Denny win. But that did not happen. So, to begin the race, the first thing I noticed was the tire fall off. The first green flag pit stops came on lap 33. And that was crazy to me. That these guys were only getting 35 laps to a run was very crazy. Very awesome, though. Honestly, it's awesome to see that with this car. And, tires obviously made a difference. So that was good to see. And I just thought it was crazy that pit stops were that early into a run. Christopher Bell, who we touched on last week, traded pit crews with the 54 team of Ty Gibbs. They're supposed to be one of the best teams in the playoffs, or just during the regular season in general, was the Ty Gibbs crew. And Christopher Bell gets the pole and loses the lead on his first set of pit stops. The pit crew screws up, drops the jack, ends up being a 15-second stop, which in this next-gen car is hugely disappointing. They're averaging about 9 seconds a stop. Is your regular. So he lost six seconds on pit road. Just not a very good day for Seabell at all. And the first driver to make a mistake as far as playoff drivers was Ricky Stenhouse Jr., which during the first set of pit stops he sped on pit road, kind of put him in a bind for the rest of the race. Really wasn't able to make up much. And after that, Denny wins the first stage, as I touched on earlier. And a good first half of the race for Denny for sure, and he's stashing those playoff points for when he needs them come the next couple rounds, so that's awesome to see. At the end of the first stage, though, fighting for 11th spot, really no need to fight for this spot, in my opinion, but Bubba Wallace spins, gets up into Joey Logano and spins. Of course, Bubba was able to recover for a good finish, but hated seeing that coming to the end of stage one. He'd put himself in a pretty good position and kind of spun. So, not the best look, but I think Bubba bounces back this week. A shocker of this race, which is the guy that dominated the regular season, in my opinion. Martin Truex Jr., loose wheel on green flag stops, put him, he wasn't even running well before this. If you watch the race, you never heard much at all from the 19 team. And that was really wild to see because he led a lot of laps in the spring here. He's won at Darlington a couple times. He's really good here. And on a year that they have consistently been the best team, in my opinion, it was super shocking to see them struggle like they did. I think they will bounce back this week also. I don't see how you could think they wouldn't. They ran well at Kansas earlier this year, led some laps. And I think Martin will get back in control this week at Kansas. So after the Martin Truex Jr. loose wheel, B.J. McLeod of the number 78 blows up, and you hate to see that for the small teams. Just out there logging laps, trying to stay out of the way, and engine blows. So not good for that team. He's had, the 78's usually the slowest car on the track every week, but you got to respect those guys for trying. They're trying to build that team up, and BJ is a great driver who hopefully can get that team going. I hate it for the smaller teams that, are just trying their best to have a accident like that they can't help. It ain't like he just plowed the wall down or anything like that, but he blows up and costs him a race and a bad finish. So after that, Austin Cindric, who it seemed like was in the wall a lot this race, overdrives corner, spins himself and Ty Gibbs out. And this was just not a very good look at all for Cindric, who kind of struggled all day. And he just flat out overdrove it and put both of them in the wall. There's nothing else really to say about that, in my opinion. I hated it for Ty Gibbs. He was running decent. And, it's unfortunate, but I'm sure with Kansas coming up, I think Toyotas are going to be awesome there, just like they have been. So, Toyota's consistently, it seems like, been the fastest car manufacturer for weeks now. Seems like they're always up front, whether it's Martin or Denny, or Reddick. Reddick was up front a lot at Darlington. It seems like they are, that if they don't win the title this year, there's going to be I would consider that a disappointment if they didn't win the title this year. So, after that wreck, Denny wins stage 2. And, like I said, very important for Denny to win the first 2 stages, because with the issue he had, which I'm about to get into, but the issue he had, if he doesn't get them 20 points, he's only looking at +7 on the cut line, and that's a lot different than +27. So, that's a great job by Denny and that team to win the first 2 stages. I felt like they had the best car all night. I hated it. I thought this was win number 51 as a Hamlin fan. Would have locked himself into the round of 12, but now he'll have to just continue ticking off, good, solid finishes these next 2 races to get into the round of 12, but hated it for him. And after winning stage 2, he has a loose wheel. And, the crew said they couldn't find anything that indicated a loose wheel. I'm going to trust Denny here as a driver. Obviously, he felt something wasn't right with the car. You saw him and Tyler Reddick coming out and him just giving Reddick the spot. Therefore, you knew the pace was out of the car. He was going slower in hopes of the wheel not coming off. And he made it back to pit road without that happening, and it definitely took him out of contention. He ends up finishing a lap down. So, like I said, amazing job getting the first 2 stage wins, and I'm so glad he did, because this week would be a lot more stressful if he hadn't. So, just stinks. It seems like Denny a lot will dominate races and, have a bad luck, just honestly bad luck go wrong. And but I think he'll bounce back and potentially get a second win at Kansas this season. There's no reason why he can't. There's no reason why he can't go contend every single week. So I'm not worried about that. So I want to touch on the light situation real quick. There was a red flag about 5 to 10 minutes long if you watch the race, and a lot of drivers were actually saying that it wasn't a big deal, and they were ready to go racing, but I just thought that was wild if you were watching that and saw it, that the lights went out. And, that they called a caution so late. I think they had drove, 30 laps before they actually had the caution. So kind of weird and random, but glad they got it fixed. And after that, Ryan Newman was actually doing pretty good. I mean, to drive in a Rick Ware racing car, he was running very respectable. And, was racing Tyler Reddick pretty hard to not lose another lap. And as Kevin Harvick is trying to get to pit road, which I want to touch on Harvick before I say this. Harvick could have won this race. I mean, he was right there. As I'm saying, he was coming to short pit Tyler Reddick. He was coming a lap earlier to gain track position. And Tyler Reddick and his crew sees that. Tyler Reddick's already past the pit road entrance and slows down like he can make it. And when that happens, Ryan Newman has to brake check, ends up spinning himself out. The caution comes out, and before Harvick can get on pit road, the red light or yellow light on pit road comes out. Therefore, pit road is closed. Therefore, he cannot do service on his vehicle on pit road while the caution is out. And, either way, he would have lost track position. But then his pit crew decided to go ahead and put the tires on and service the car. And, therefore, he had to drop to the back. So, rough call for Harvick and team, as he went from in good shape in points to right on the cut line now. And not only that, to do with points, he could have won this race. He was making up time on Tyler Reddick before the pit stops, and I really think it would have came down to the wire between Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, and Tyler Reddick. And that would have been a great battle to watch. So that's bad luck for Harvick in his last season. Now we'll see if he can string together 2 great runs here and see if he can lock himself into the round of 12. The next thing was Daniel Suarez and Alex Bowman. I've went back, watched replays on this. I've dissected it, and looking at it, I mean, I don't know how you all feel about it, and you can let me know. This seemed like it was the most controversial thing that happened during the race. And I hated it for Harrison Burton because he was just an innocent bystander who couldn't go anywhere and end up getting hit. But it looked like Bowman blocked once. And, Suarez was convinced Bowman blocked a second time. It looked like to me he was lifting when he was trying to arc his way into that corner in turn 1. But, either way, Suarez did not lift and just spun them both out. I think, in my opinion, which I'm not a driver, you all know this, I'm just a guy talking about NASCAR because I love it. But in my opinion, I think, go ahead and lift there. But, going into the next corner, you think you're faster than the guy, give him the bumper and knock him out of the way. Knock him into the fence. That way, it don't end his day, it don't end your day, but, I mean, he knows you're there. And if you can get past him, you should just go right on and probably be gone from him. Honestly, if you knock him up into the fence, get him in the marbles, and, I think no problem. So, sadly, Suarez didn't decide to do that. He just went full send, no lifting, and hooked Bowman into the fence and ended up taking them both out, plus Harrison Burton. So, rough day for all those guys. I know Suarez was mad. I can see why he is mad. I'm not really putting this incident on either one of those guys. I think that it's kind of just a dumb move anyway. Both of them were having solid runs. I think it was dumb on both of their parts. I think it was dumb. If Bowman did indeed block, I think that was dumb. But I also think that Suarez, if, full sending on the gas the whole way when you're running good as you are, kind of not the smartest thing to do. But that's just my opinion. You all let me know what you think about that. And, I think that both of these guys have just had disappointing seasons. I think both of them obviously wanted to make the playoffs. feel like their teams are caliber enough to make the playoffs. Heck, at the beginning of the year, I picked Bowman to win 2 races. So, just my opinion, rough year for those guys, and I think that both of them will be back into chase contention next year. So, Todd Gilliland nudged by Kyle Busch, and it takes several people out. Now, this was just a wild sequence, very uncharacteristic of Kyle Busch, in my opinion. I have Austin Dillon on the top, Todd Gilliland in the middle, and Kyle Busch is going to make the pass on both of them. And gets up into Todd, which Todd tries his best to save it, doesn't. And he comes down the track into Denny's, where Denny was trying to go. Denny has to swerve. I still don't know how he didn't just plow right into Todd Gilliland. I went back to watch it several times, and my goodness. I mean, he was an inch from hitting Todd Gilliland's left rear at that point. But Denny goes up to miss it. When he goes up to miss it, he's so loose, he hits the fence, and poor Michael McDowell has nowhere to go and just absolutely plows into the back of Denny, ruins Michael McDowell's day, significant damage, and now he is 19 points below the cut line and more than likely in a must-win scenario these next 2 races. I don't think you're going to make up 19 points on these guys. I could be totally wrong. But as you all know, these playoff guys, they run very well in the playoffs. So maybe he's lucky enough to several others have mistakes, and he's sitting there and ready to, get a good finish, and maybe he'll make his way in there. I don't see it. I don't see him getting into the round of 12 unless he wins. So that was the last big wreck, and I hated to see that, especially for Michael McDowell. Denny's day was already pretty much ruined. I mean, and McDowell wasn't running that well anyway, but that was pretty much the nail in the coffin. He had to go back to the garage and not have a very good finish at all. Now, I'm going to take a second to pat myself on the back because once again on the JD's NASCAR and Sports podcast episode from a week ago, I predicted Kyle Larson to win at Darlington. And Kyle Larson did just that. He holds off Tyler Reddick and wins the race, locks himself into the round of 12. And this was another prediction that, I've got several wrong, but I've got several right too. And to pick the winner of the race, especially the Southern 500, I consider that a win in my book. So I'll give myself credit. And if you all follow my advice and, place bets on these races, that's awesome. I'm glad for you all. And you all should, your bank account should have went up a little bit this week. So I appreciate it. And, hopefully we can continue to get these right so it helps you all and I get some credibility. And another thing, points-wise, my first 4 out were McDowell, Stenhouse, Harvick, and Logano. And, 3 of those 4 are out right now, and Logano's in by like 3 points, I think. So, maybe I'll be right, maybe I won't. I know Robbie definitely disagreed with my Joey Logano pick of being out in the first round. But, Darlington was another example of why I don't think he can make a deep playoff run. Just broke the toe link, bent the toe link, which, honestly wasn't his fault, but he wasn't running that well to begin with. Didn't have the speed that they typically have. Not this season. They really haven't. So, I know he wanted Atlanta earlier in the year to get him in the playoffs, but I'm not of a belief that we'll see a third Joey Logano championship this season. So, like I said, Darlington, awesome. But now we go to Kansas, where, in my opinion, Kansas was the best race of the season so far. Do we see a repeat of that? I think we do. I think we see a great race. This car has raced great there every time that we've been there since last season. So, I expect a great race. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I cannot wait. Like I said, I think the Toyotas are your team to beat. I think JGR in 2311. I think that, unless there's a crazy incident or wreck, that this is Toyota's race to lose. And I think that they won't lose it, to be honest with you. I think a Toyota's going to victory lane. Which one? I haven't really decided yet, to be honest with you. But the time has come to make that prediction. So I guess I have to predict it. And I think that, early in the week, I was thinking Bubba Wallace. But I don't think that now. I think that, I think he'll run solid, but I don't think he'll have race-winning speed. I just think him and Tyler Reddick will be in contention, but they didn't show me in the spring that they had race-winning speed. I know Reddick started up front, but a guy that I think will bounce back from last week and get the win at Kansas. I think Martin Truex Jr. wins at Kansas, locks himself into the round of 12 for another win this year. He led some laps there earlier earlier this season, but wasn't dominant. Denny and Kyle Larson really had the best cars last race here. So would it shock me if Denny or Larson goes and wins this? Heck no, it would not. I feel like those guys are definitely going to be your favorites. I'll win a little bit off the grid here. But could I see Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson dominating this race yet again? Yes, I can, and I think it would be wild. The result might not play out to my fandoms. I feel like that my fandom would take a hit if it came down to Denny and Kyle, because I feel like Kyle might use him up or even wreck him if it comes down to a battle. I don't know. He was complimentary this week of Denny about how good he was at Darlington and stuff, so I want to give him credit for that. But it would definitely scare me if Kyle Larson's on Denny's bumper with 2 to go. Let's just say that. And, it would be awesome to watch just as a fan, but, I would be kind of sad at the outcome. But I don't think either that, I'm just throwing that out there, I don't think that's going to happen, because I think Martin Truex is going to win. And, once again, I just want to thank you all for listening. Continue to rate, like, share, review, and now we are on to our question of the week. This week's question of the week comes from an avid listener of the show and knows that I'm a Denny Hamlin fan, obviously, because this was sent in, let's see, what day? Looks like Monday, and the extension happened yesterday, I think, or was it Monday? It was either Monday or Tuesday, but asked if I was scared about the Denny Hamlin contract talks, and I'm just going to say, yeah, I was. I'm not any longer, because on Monday, I'm looking back now, on Monday, they came to an agreement, and that was awesome. It was on Denny's podcast that he announced that, Actions Detrimental, with Denny Hamlin, if you all want to go give that a listen. But he announced it, and yes, I was scared. I thought maybe it was a similar road as Kyle Busch's incident last year, but Denny handled it very, very professionally. Joe Gibbs handled it very professionally, and I can't wait to continue to cheer on that 11 car. And it would have been hard to see him anywhere else in any other car other than racing for JGR. So I'm glad they got the deal done, and this means also that 2311 will continue to be Toyota and run their Toyotas. So I'm grateful for that. It was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I know it had to be a huge weight lifted off his. I think after, with these contract talks being over, that I think you'll see it even more focused Denny Hamlin. And that's scary for the field, I'll just tell you right now. So, yes, I was scared, but I no longer am, as the JGR and Denny Hamlin ink a multi-year extension. So, his goal is to get to 60 wins. I think that's very possible. So, we'll see. I'm along for the ride, have been since 2006. So, it's good to see them get that deal done, and I couldn't be happier for them. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all for your great reviews of last week's interview. And thank you all for sticking with me. This has been awesome. I love each and every one of my listeners. And You all are the best. So thank you. If you all want to order t-shirts, I'm still taking orders on those. Haven't put in an order in a while, but now that we're gaining more listeners and more listenership, if you all want shirts, get with me. They are posted on my Facebook page, and I look forward to doing more giveaways in the future as well. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate all the support from my day one listeners, from every listener. If you're hearing this podcast, you are appreciated, and truly thank you. So until next week, where we will recap how Kansas goes and how wild and awesome it's going to be. This has been JD's NASCAR and Sports Podcast. Thank you guys so much.